Why am I still feeling the exact same after 6 months of treatment? If I let other people see my weakness, then I'm less of a person. Hi, I'm Christopher Nicolaysen, and today I want to talk about some of the most common mistakes that people have with their doctors, their treating medical providers after a car wreck. And so one of the first mistakes I think a lot of people have, and it can be this idea of being super tough and not really wanting to talk about how much pain we're in. You know, you're injured in a crash and then things are hurting for you, but it's like, I was never made to be somebody who's going to show weakness. I'm not going to show, no one will see that I am hurting. Because if I let other people see my weakness, then I'm less of a person, right? And so you go in and the doctors will ask you on the pain scale of a 1 to 10 scale, where are you at? And you're like, well, I'm at a 1 or a 2. Well, the reality is then you probably don't need much treatment. But then you walk out of there going, holy cow, I'm still really hurting. So playing tough never really helps anyone at all. So that can be a huge issue. And then part of that can be, lead into another area as well, where it can just be general, discomfort of going to see a doctor on a regular basis, right? Unless you're somebody that already goes to the doctor a lot, it can be a new experience for a lot of us. So it can just be a general discomfort and annoyance of wanting to go to doctor's visits and go see a bunch of different treating medical providers throughout your injury treatment. So sometimes what people will do then, if they're really uncomfortable with it, is they'll just stop going. They'll basically put a pause or a timeout on treatment, and then they end up with this thing called a gap in care. So the gap in care could be something like, you're injured in a crash in January. You go for a couple of sessions in January, February, and then because of your discomfort and annoyance with it, you just kind of stop. And then you go March, April, and May without seeing anyone at all. And then because of how much it's hurting your body physically, your neck and your back and things like that, then you pick it back up again in June. And now you've got yourself a 3-month gap in care and treatment where, the other side, the at-fault insurance company or the defense is going to look at that and go, what would a reasonable person actually have done here? They're hurting. They would have gone and actually got care and treatment instead. So think about that gap in care, that gap in treatment as a way to, definitely it's something you don't want to have. You want to keep going and pushing through. You want to keep working through it, as much as you can. Another kind of, common mistake or issue is, listening to what one of your medical providers says solely as, the word, like canon. And so the reality here is it's better to, as you're seeing, multiples, to get a second opinion to find out, hey, why am I still feeling the exact same after 6 months of treatment? And so I think it's really important that you can own your own medical care as well and speak up and advocate for yourself. Because if you're still feeling the same after 6 months and this one person, you're relying on their advice, go out and get a second opinion. Talk to another doctor. Ask them to go see someone else. And so that can be a way to do it too, is make sure that you are always looking for and trying to find a second opinion if you're not feeling satisfied with the direction that your first opinion doctor is, headed. Then the next thing would be is the idea of, hey, I'm kind of stuck with my current medical care provider and I don't feel like I should leave. I feel like I'd be betraying them. And then, this is where I've been. But, unfortunately for me is I don't feel like they're doing a lot for me. The schedule's not working out so great. And I'm still feeling just as hurt as I did from whenever I had the crash. Again, another really good time to take control of your case and go get a second opinion. It's okay. You are fighting right now for your own health and wellness. And so even as the doctors are helping you, it's still important that you are getting the treatment and the information that you need to help yourself get better. Then lastly, too, it's one of those things, too, where, it's important to make sure that you're constantly having conversations between, the doctor's office, but making sure, too, then that if you have a personal injury lawyer, that communication is cohesive, that they're talking to each other, that you're talking to each side as to what's going on and how you're feeling. So it's important to set up times, where you can give information to your attorney, your personal injury attorney, and let them know, here's where I'm at in treatment right now, and here's what's happening. So that way too, they can make decisions for you, financial decisions as well, because they'll know the at-fault insurance policy limits, they'll know your policy limits, and can help make certain decisions that way too. So make sure too that all lines of communication can be open and that people are talking. And if they're not open, make sure that you're at least talking to both sides, the doctors and the lawyers. And then that's a good way to avoid some of those big mistakes as well that could come back to hurt you and your case in the long run. So those are some common mistakes that I see throughout that, clients and people that are injured have had with, working with their medical care providers. If you know someone that could use this information and that it would help, make sure to tag them or share it with them.